we have a guest who's joining us now. McDonald Kang'e is the General Manager for Medical at CIC Group. Good morning, McDonald.
Good morning, Eric. How are you doing?
Karibu sana to Kenya's biggest conversation.
Asante sana.
Yeah, no, smiling. This man is healthy. Has a healthy smile.
We have to live to the name.
Bas.
Yes.
This is it.
Yeah.
This is it. Kenya's biggest conversation is hosting McDonald Kang'e. So we can talk about the cost of healthcare, why comprehensive health insurance is important, and why we should think about it. We'll talk about all these things, and we have very many questions. When you talk about comprehensive, what exactly it means, but let me welcome you with the day's proverb. It's from the countries of Niger, Mali, or Burkina Faso. It says, bad things come to one's mother. Good things will also come to her. Bad things come to one's mother. Good things will also come to her. What's your interpretation of that proverb, McDonald?
An interesting choice of countries to pick the proverb from.
Yes.
But it's good things come to the mother, you say.
Bad things come to the mother, but good things will also come to the mother.
At least they don't introduce the father yet. That means taking responsibility. Sounds like taking responsibility for the good that happens to you, for the bad that happens to you. You can't just take credit for just what is good. And it's good, it's the mother. They seem many times to do many good things. And mentioned for few or less, bad things.
Yeah. It's also one way of basically being told that when you are sitting there and you're seeing bad things happening to somebody's mother, all right, and you're thinking, surely, just remember that good things will also happen to that somebody's mother. So don't just sit there and laugh at them now because of what is happening to them. Just know it's a cycle.
Indeed.
The good things will also come. To the mother.
I think humanly we like taking responsibility for the good. And it's good that we appreciate that the mother, who can be having a challenge now, might also have an opportunity and a good thing happening.
Very good. CIC Group. Okay, we've seen it many times. But just tell us about CIC Group. Who is CIC Group? Previously, it used to have the whole full name of CIC, but now it's just CIC Group.
CIC now is a full name. It's a group of companies. It's a financial institution company. And CIC has a very rich heritage because CIC has a rich heritage with the cooperative movement. That was one of the C's before.
We used to call it cooperative insurance.
An acronym.
Yes.
And I don't know, Eric, whether you know how strong the cooperative movement is in the country. It's now what owns the majority of CIC, which is a listed company. And in this group of companies, we seek to secure your financial needs, be it insurance, like a building like this one, which is either short-term or what we call long-term, like pensions, life, and all that. But you'll also be very interested to know that we do very well in investing your money, taking care of your investments, like our money market. It's a good way of ensuring that your money is beating the inflation that we're doing at return rates of almost 10%. Interest rate, which is a good thing. That's what makes us a group of companies operating here in Kenya. We like to say we want to keep our word here in Kenya, in Malawi, in Tanzania, in South Sudan, and continuously expanding. That's the CIC Group.
You spoke about heritage.
Yes.
So take us back through that historical journey. When was CIC as we know it today, when was it founded and by whom?
It's actually a beautiful story because CIC started as an insurance agency by the cooperative movement. And we are talking 52 years or so. That's 1968. Then grew into what was now called cooperative insurance. Later in the years, with changes in regulation that required split in the business, if you're doing long-term, short-term, Now we had to have CIC Life, which would take care of your let's say pension, your life insurance, education policy, and then CIC General, and that's where the space within which I am. The difference between the life and what we call general insurance is the length of the contract. So for general, it's basically short-term, 1-year contract, and then you renew it. And then later into now managing investments, which we have a very fancy name. We call ourselves CICAM, CIC Assets Management. Yes.
How does that kick 'em?
CICAM.
So it's CICAM.
Yes.
Because I've seen that word and that name, but okay.
All right, so obviously the different kinds of, necessary to understand what then it is important for folks to know what is available when it comes to coverage insurance-wise. We're going to focus on health insurance today.
Yes.
And usually we think, okay, you pay a little bit of something every month, and then if in the unfortunate circumstance you get ill, it's paid for.
Yeah.
If you have an accident, it's paid for. And it sounds like that's it. Is it more complicated than that?
Thank you, Du, for that question. And it's a very interesting and in a great way, right way of describing it. Maybe with some more information. Insurance is not as complicated as we think it is. When you walk to a shop and you want to buy sugar and you give out that money, that's what we call a price. In insurance, it's only that now what is a price when you're buying sugar, we call it premium. And now when you give out that premium, it gives you access to a certain benefit. For example, you give me 10,000 and I will say, in the unfortunate event that you are unwell, then I will pay your bills to a certain point. And here, the arrangement we have in Kenya actually works for us because you don't have to walk around with cash if you're insured.
Yeah.
You show up at the facility and then they would be able to treat you based on the credit arrangements that we have with them.
Why is it important? Because we talk about let's start with that. Why is it important? Then I'll come into the other parts of the question.
Insurance is very important because, Eric, the statistics show, for example, the average income of a Kenyan is around 20,000 shillings, which means monthly income. Yeah, monthly income is 20,000 shillings. And that means, for example, a hospital bill of 25,000 shillings is more than my month's income.
Yeah.
If I pay that bill, I will not have a way of paying for my rent.
Yeah.
And in the bigger context of things, those people with that level of income are the bigger number. Insurance now ensures some sort of security that in the event that, God forbid, I am unwell, I can worry about the food, but I don't need to worry about the bill. But more important is the quality of care that people are able to access. Statistics show that people who have some sort of financing like insurance tend to access higher quality of care than those people who have who do what we call out-of-pocket payment.
Yeah.
And it's simple. I'm a Kenyan. If I feel like I have a cough and I have 5,000 shillings in my pocket, at that particular point, there will be a competition of that 5,000 shillings between my fare and my seeking healthcare.
Yep.
I might end up at a pharmacy instead of seeing
A doctor.
But if I don't have to worry about that at that particular point, then I'm likely to see a doctor and they are able to maybe catch whatever could be ailing me when it is still early. And that's the importance of insurance. I think the assurance of that security, because lack of insurance can be very destabilizing in terms of having insurance can be your security from poverty, that you today you're in good health, God forbid you you get into an unfortunate incident, you have a 10 million bill, then now becomes, then what happens next? You get.
So with all these things that are known and that they are obvious, right? Because almost everybody has had to deal with a medical bill at some point, right? Why is insurance uptake so low in this country?
Thank you. I think...
and actually, what is the uptake?
The statistics point to around 3%. And let's see how we compare actually with the other countries. I think in Africa, South Africa leads with 9 or so percent with their coverage for, say, funeral plans being very high. A place South Africa, what we have in WhatsApp groups many times is covered through insurance. But that 3% is some sort of progress because a few years ago we were at 1.3%. So the regulator actually is also doing a lot of work around that area. The Bima Mashinani campaigns to explain this to people. Fortunately or unfortunately, you get to test insurance when the unfortunate happens. So if you have a card, you get to use it if you get admitted. And so there has been a lot of effort towards now educating members to the public on why it is important and to drive these numbers high. For example, at CIC, every single month we have an engagement. As I said, we have a rich heritage with the cooperative movement. And so we get to meet circles and all that. And in these forums, we educate the members on the need for insurance. And I'll give you an example. When you go to, hypothetically, central Kenya, some place where they keep dairy cattle, and you'll get the farmer has an elaborate plan around the cow. Yeah? So when I take my milk and I deliver it, for example, they would deduct some amount. Should the cow get sick, our circle or our cooperative would send a vet. But now when I get sick, I sell the cow to pay the bill, which now hurts my livelihood. And so the things we are doing is educating members to just ensure that they are secured on such matters, to ensure that in the event of that you get sick or you need your property, it could be your business, where you're doing your business, because insurance is not just medical. Is your shop insured in case of thugs breaking in? Does it, if they clear your stock, can you present a claim to an insurance company and you get paid?
Well, for me, the whole idea about insurance is just about indemnity. That I'm trying to indemnify myself against any element on that rainy day. So my first question, of course, would be on this is a user experience informed question. Somehow, from going around hospitals, I have realized that insurance guys are so much about fraud prevention as opposed to facilitating service delivery, where you take a lot of time chasing approvals. You could even die in halls in hospital, and somehow there are always downtime in the system. No one is speaking, no one has responded. So you feel like the insurance or at the operational level, there's too much premium on fraud prevention and very little effort on service delivery. I really don't know. Looks like somebody is elected to deliver service, but then he chooses to become EACC, so he fights corruption instead of delivering. I'm not saying like somebody was elected sometimes back and did that, but sometimes that is how. Sometimes that's how you view insurance, because you take a lot of time with them trying to check and so much of fraud prevention. And service delivery is not one of those things that are prioritized. Why does it look that to so many people walking around hospital halls?
I think one of the things that, and thanks Bwana Maliba for the question, as you put it, there sometimes have been that feeling. But even as an industry, one of the things that we have been doing, as I said, is this education on how insurance works. That when I show up at the hospital, for example, I understand and appreciate the process. But even by law, for example, if you show up at a facility, the first thing you need to get is treatment. And to ensure that you don't show up and you're being asked, wait until we call the insurance or wait until we call the CIC, we have made some significant investment in ensuring the processes are customer-centric. That today as Kang'e, if I show up at providers and I have had an accident, I'll be treated and they can notify the insurance 24 hours later. So that's a process that ensures the experience at the point of using the service is pleasant. Remember, out of the many people who are insured, 80% access services that are outpatient in nature. You walk in, you walk out.
Yeah.
And that process is many times very, very seamless. You present your card, you are attended to, and you walk out. The same thing for inpatient. There is continuous engagement. Is fraud management an important thing? I think, yes, it is. But it should not override the experience that you have. Because what you want to ensure, this fraud management is not just for the insurance. Because you, as a member, as an insured, Bwana Maliba, and you could be insured for 1 million. I also want to ensure that no one is taking advantage of that 1 million. Because if you can use it, say you only need to use 500, quality care, not compromised, quality care. It still gives you a chance to access care on a future date. And so it's to ensure that all those processes that lengthen your benefit, all those processes that are focused on the customer, and the experience is pleasant.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Why do you think
Yes.
that most people don't take up medical insurance?
Interesting, because and I think statistically we have some space to cover in terms of just getting everyone insured, which makes the discussion on universal health coverage very, very important at whatever level, at private sector level, at government level, so that everyone has some sort of healthcare financing. And why I think many people are still not insured, it's a myriad of factors. There's always the question of just pure affordability, not to mean it's not affordable, because even some social insurance costs as little as 500 bob. I'm not saying 500 bob is not high, but it is sort of reasonable. But so there is a question of our economic ability, where we are placed as a people, but there's also the question of awareness.
Yes.
And that's the big one. And that's why I was talking about ensuring that if I meet Bwana Maliba, I can explain to him why insurance is a good thing. Because for all of us here, statistically the four of us, if I asked, is any one of us here in a funeral group? There's a possibility. One, in a WhatsApp. You know what they call black tax?
Yep.
That you're paying for it in an indirect way. So in a way we end up paying, but we need to create that awareness.
Sure.
That today, if I meet Eric and he has a bill, for example, for hospital, God forbid, which is not able to pay, and Eric invites me to his WhatsApp, I also want to have this conversation on why there is another option. That you could have gotten some sort of coverage one way or the other, so that you don't also make unnecessarily push a burden to people when you can take care of it. And of course it's not you know, in the country you can't have a car on the road without insurance. But you can have a human body on the road
without insurance.
It's likened to the reasons why people don't seek healthcare. The same reason why people don't seek healthcare is the same reason, or rather, the reason can be shared as to why they don't seek healthcare. If I am not sick, if something is not hurting, if I am standing up, I'm walking from point A to B, why should I go and see a doctor? It's the same reason as per I'm not going to be in an accident today. I'm not going to fall sick. So why should I pay anticipating that something is going to happen?
Yeah.
So in arriving at a solution, it's necessary to look at the problem, isn't it?
Yes, yes.
So we say, okay, we want to get as many people covered as possible. These are the reasons why they're not being covered. Because truth be told, that even the most vulnerable person who says 500 shillings is a lot, you will find that should something happen to their loved ones or themselves, they will spend a lot more than that 500 shillings for them in hospital. So how about we start thinking about, okay, what is it that we can say to people for them to understand that you're getting an umbrella in case
of a rainy day? I have a different view. That it's not because people do not understand the need for taking up insurance.
On the priority list, it is not up there.
And why is it not a priority list? It's because of what these people do to us. And these ones who take our money. Some of these challenges. Number one, take up insurance and there's a dotted line. Are you immediately covered for some chronic ailments? And then there's a line of pre-existing conditions that comes in. There are some insurance companies, I don't know whether it's all of them, that would say that for you to qualify for this insurance policy to actually take care of you, should you be diagnosed with a chronic ailment, you have to have been a regular contributor for 3 consecutive years. And by consecutive, they mean if it ends on the 9th of August, you renew by the 9th of August. If you go to renew on the 11th of August, we start from square one. Why bring in so many barriers into insurance? Why does a policy have to be 1 year long?
Okay.
Can there be a monthly policy? Why do the premiums have to be the way they are? Can there be other ways of having these premiums? Okay. Why is there so much rigidity in this industry?
That's an interesting question, Eric. And maybe just for context, I think you started with the pre-existing.
What are those, Kwanzaa?
Insurance has continuously evolved. I think up around in the early 2000s, when you went to apply for insurance and you made some disclosures that I have diabetes, I have hypertension, and all that, as long as you've ticked that in the form, God forbid if you said you had HIV, because you remember back in the day it was still a big thing. I'm not saying it's not. Yeah. But if you ticked any of those back in the day, you would quickly get your check back. In fact, it at some point felt like being admitted to the Ivy League of schools when you got that policy. But with the support of the regulator, there has been some progress that you don't necessarily have not to be covered just because you have a pre-existing condition. Does it mean you cannot? The answer is it doesn't mean you cannot. As a matter of fact, more people die from accidents than from pre-existing conditions. And so what we have done is, over time, ensured that we are responsive to the needs. So the first thing is, yes, you get covered. Is it to the full limit? It depends with your policy. So what I would encourage many of us to do is to appreciate the detail of your policy. That I might have a cover for 1 million shillings, but my pre-existing has a limit of 500. Why do we want to do that? It is ensuring that we balance off the benefit that we are giving and the premium, and that you don't give a cover and then tomorrow the company also doesn't exist. The country has had a history of some insurances going under because of performance, but we are all past that. So pre-existing now, you'll hardly get back your money because you have a pre-existing condition. It's covered. You did ask about, I think it's what we call waiting time, that I have a waiting time. But for some context, what type of policies do we have in this country? So we have, by and large, 2 bigger categories. Me as an individual, I can buy for myself, and if I have a family, for my family, or my employer can buy for us as a group, which means it's many people together.
Yeah.
When it's many people together, it means we could be 100. And we are not buying because we are sick. It's just there is a need.
Insurance.
Today I might be sick, but there will be 99 others who are not. Which means when on a balance of things, you can be able to pay. Because the most important thing is to ensure sustainability. One of the things to avoid is to give a product which you will pull out because it's not sustainable, because it hurts the confidence of the populace. And so when it is a corporate, today, Eric, when I get you covered with CIC, I hope I sign the contract, you will not need to wait for anything because you're a group and the risk is well spread out. You can access chronic treatment, you can access what we call acute treatment. God forbid if it's you can access.
Okay.
All right? But when now to an individual, and it's not as punitive because once you have been insured, many times it's just what we call a limited waiting period, and it's to just also safeguard that it's not just the sick who are buying. Remember, we are human beings. I could be here with Bwana Maliba and he needs a surgery tomorrow. He comes today,
signs up, pays a small premium,
pays 100K. Tomorrow he's in
hospital with a bill of 5 million.
A bill of 5 million. So it's just some safeguards to ensure that people are insured. But there's such good progress in that space because I think in the industry now, we are having hundreds of thousands, the individuals who are actually buying insurance. At CIC, we see that as our fastest growing segment, where now, because remember, there is a change in how we do things. People are leaving work not to change jobs, but just to do their own thing. But I still want to enjoy a cover the level that I was enjoying. So that's some of the progress that we're making. We
also operate in a bite-sized economy, don't we? A lot of folks,
It's Kadogo.
Yeah, it's that Kadogo economy. If I were to apply, if I bought a plane ticket today to Paris, I would need travel insurance, right? It's not something I do regularly.
Yes.
But I pay $20, $50. I get insurance. If anything should happen over there while this happens, I'm covered, right?
For X days.
For X number of days.
Yes.
Right? Yes. And it's doable. It's done the world over. Would it be feasible to have that kind of insurance in Kenya, whereby people then are the fear of something might happen with this money that I've paid then is removed because somebody knows, all right, I can pay chunks of insurance 3 months and surgery, for example, is coming up. So I've paid for, in smaller bits and that allows it to cover for something.
Yeah.
Is that possible? I know I have surgery in 3 months. Can I pay insurance for 3 months and then get treated and then we see about me doing it later? Is that something that would be considered, and if not, why?
I think that's an area of progress that we just have to, because as you mentioned it's the Kadogo economy. It could be 100K and I am able to pay 30 million, and in terms of investing in innovatively to products that respond to that need, because the response to that question is the same reason why we don't sell sugar to everyone for 1 kg. I want to buy a quarter kg because that's what I can afford. And I think that's the question. And that's a space that we are, of course, now looking into because we are working towards ensuring that everyone is able to afford. If you're not able to afford because it's too much and I earn my money in a particular manner, because I might be a contractor, it's what I have, that we have a solution for that. And if you're not able to afford because you feel it's a lot, then what do we do? And I'll tell you, Eric, for example, we have a product where an inpatient cover for a certain limit is 2,500. And this is out of the feedback we would get when we engage with our cooperative movement. The same example I was giving, that now I'm sick, I've sold my cow. How can I avoid selling my cow? So, number one, we have now the insurance for the cow itself. If the cow dies, you bring a claim and tell me my cow was called Rachel. She died. and I give you your 75,000. It was Fresian cow. But then again, if you also now became unwell, I'll tell you, then you can go to the facility for 2,500. So that the whole ecosystem is well taken care of in terms of, because let's look at it, the whole industry is insuring just upwards of 2 million lives, right? Throw in the social insurer, we can still say 70% of us have no sort of insurance.
Yes.
So the potential that there is huge. We have to think about, if we have 55 million and just around 15 million are insured, surely we have to think about these 30 million guys.
Yep.
And in that 30 million guys, I think it's what Ndu is saying, there is one who can pay in a quarterly or in a month, in some sort of way,
some staggered manner.
In some staggered manner, and those are areas that we are definitely.
And even if you think about it,
yeah.
A majority of hospital visits are outpatient hospital visits.
Yes.
How many insurance products do we have that are specific to outpatient and not including inpatient? Because then if you had such a product and so I have my outpatient policy and this one goes up to 5,000 shillings, I know what's the likelihood that I'm going to actually spend more than 5,000, So you allow those smaller, like Ndu is saying, bite-sized products to come into the market. So you get more people seeing this makes sense to me and it can work for me. Even my income, my everything, I can afford this one. At least when that person goes to hospital, they are not thinking of today my family will not eat today because I went to hospital and I was told go and do some tests that cost 500 bob, and then you buy some medicine that costs 250. That is 750 bob. That's 750. If I take 750, my children will not eat. But you see, that's 750.
Yeah.
And that's what I was talking about, the rigidity of the insurance sector, that it's still so fixated on the corporate sector that it has not been thinking about the lower cadres, where that's where the majority of the people are, Arnold.
Actually, just to build on that, I think the questions here for the last couple of minutes have revolved around product innovation. And I think the challenge for me, from where I see it, and that would be a question I would really love to hear from you, is that I don't know what the data says, but it looks like the insurance actors are so much focused on low-lying fruits. The corporate side can easily put in the money.
And there's a law, there's a law that says that you must provide health care for your workers.
So those are so quick to go around by. So I don't know how the sector works, but I know that as a country, we are a sick country. People are not going to hospital not because they are well. People are not going to hospital because, number one, they can't afford. But we have got people that are sick. And the product, specifically, since we're talking about health insurance, the product we're offering is the health insurance. Is a social product. And that is why then I go back to what you said, that CIC has got its roots in the cooperatives movement. So it's actually the origin is actually tapping in the pooling power, that when we come together, we are able to work around that.
Yeah.
But there are very few products flexible enough that actually are tapping into the informal sector. We agree that the informal sector is now the leading job creator. And it's been so for the last about 30 years, because I'm told the informal sector overtook the formal sector in 1992. Yet, up to today, we still do not have vibrant market-facing products that target that particular sector. Two, I'm yet to meet a health insurance facility that would be as graduated as what we see today in the motor vehicle industry. Today, I can actually pay my car insurance for a month. But every time I've gone to check around my insurance, my health insurance, I'm either paying the whole of it or I'll not have it.
Yes.
So why is it that my car...
and waiting for maybe a while before you can access
why is it that for my car, which actually is much more prone to an accident, because I'm moving, and I'm moving in Kenya and Nairobi roads, for example, more than I would be sick, actually. But for the car, I actually can pay monthly. But for the health insurance, it's so difficult. What is the data saying that is forcing you guys to actually focus on what I want to refer to as low-lying fruits?
Very interesting question. And maybe just to contextualize it, because you ask about data, what progress has been made? I think I remember 5 years ago, for every 100 people that were insured by private insurance, only 5 were individuals. I think now that statistic is leaning towards 15 or thereabouts. And is the corporate sector just the low-lying fruit? To some extent, it is, but not the lowest lying fruit. Because statistically, if you look at it, there are very few what we call SMEs that have graduated into big corporates.
Yeah.
Because our economy is also growing at a certain pace. But there are many individuals who have graduated from thousandaires to millionaires. And those are the guys we want to target. And the response would basically be around innovation around products. There is definitely a case to look at the ability to pay. But let's step a bit back. Your ability to pay the motor insurance for a month. I don't know whether you know it, but right now you can't insure your car twice. Something that used to happen. You insure it here and there, and you can claim everywhere. If you try to raise a certificate, you will be told the car is insured. So there's a bit of investment in terms of technology to enable some of those things, which is progress that we are making. Remember, I was saying how you would get your checks back when you apply for insurance. Outside the pre-existing, for example, was when you become a senior. To mean you've retired. It was now
you are a risk.
You are condemned. So sort of. So you finish your job, and then that point is when you need health insurance.
Yes.
Because of course at a certain age the risk factors are higher. And a response to that, for example, 2 years ago, we launched a seniors product, which allows you to join from 60 years, and you can join if you are 79 years, up to 80 years. But as long as you join and you live for, like Methuselah, you lived for 900 years, you are insured. You get.
And you pay once.
You pay every year.
Okay,
As
you have to keep renewing.
You keep renewing.
Right.
But we are telling you, if we have a Kenyan who will have
as
been
long
insured.
as your entry was between 60 and 79.
Yes.
You are okay.
If we'll have a Kenyan who will have joined insurance today at 79, and the next 100 years, God blesses them with good life. At 179, they would still be insured. There is no exit. And that now responds to, because what we want to do is ensure that I might have a cover with my employer, but when my parent gets sick, now it becomes my burden.
Yeah.
Now I want to shift that. And that responds to ensuring that we are not just tapping the low-lying fruit. And it speaks to, I think the best example I like is when you drive along Jogoo Road just before you get to the country bus. The blacksmiths, the guys who are hitting that metal. And maybe someone owns a number of those. I'm not a big corporate, but I have some few employees. And one of the things that we've done is to also have what we call micro insurance. That a person who doesn't even have 10 employees, either you are an SME of 3 people, or you're saying, this is what I can afford. Then we are able to tailor make that based on what you can afford, to just respond not to the guys where I looked for a job because I know one of the packages is medical. Yeah.
But 3% for the country still feel it's too small.
It's quite low.
It's quite low, and I'm wondering, what did the banking sector do at a time when being banked was almost, using your words, an Ivy League privilege? Today, by the way, it still feels quite privileged to have a medical insurance.
Yes.
people who move around with cards in hospitals look like people who are carrying iPhones at airports. It almost looks like it's a status thing. Just like owning a car and now carrying a gun, now also carrying a card. Why haven't that sector found ways of actually penetrating? Because I still feel our power to pay, if the banking sector is anything to go by, because the banking sector is a reflection of our health, of our economic health. If the banking sector, vibrant as it is anything, it points that probably the sector hasn't really thought about products. Of course, you've mentioned a few that really are easy for people to reach out. I keep on seeing a few being introduced and then they are pulled out. That's why I actually was asking for data. Is it that the sector is risk averse, or are we as a people very risky?
Okay. I don't think we as a people are very risky. Yeah. But if we step back on where we are coming from, because, for example, health, a health insurance, you sell a promise, and then a provider, by way of hospital, a doctor actualizes this promise. And we have to see as a country the progress that we've made in terms of the capacity development. And it could sound simple, but a few years ago, doctors were only being trained in 2 hospitals. In two universities. So the cohorts that you would release into the market were so limited. Think about it, we still have some counties where it's news when they perform their first C-section.
Yeah.
Many years later. And remember, those are the supporting aspects of, but the government has done a lot of work in investing. I remember I was doing a study at some point, and before Mama Lucy Hospital was opened, for years there had not been a new facility.
Yep.
Not just 5, almost 10 years. But there had not been a new investment infrastructure. And those are the things that support. We still have some parts of this country, for example, where access to healthcare is still miles and miles away. People have to drive. So even if I tell you buy insurance, but the nearest hospital is 200, on a balance of things, you would take your risk. So there is that infrastructural and capacity investment, because now we have almost 10 universities that are graduating doctors. We have even private
KMTCs that are now
KMTCs that are good level. We have people who are interested in, forget government, in investing in healthcare facilities. I think if you look at the clinics that are coming up in the hospitals, and those are enablers in the provision of insurance. And then which takes us to the next level. Remember, like 20 years ago, bodabodas were few. Now there are many. Those are consumers of insurance. And cars were few. Now there are many. Those are consumers. So the growth in economy also speaks to the levels. But Kenya ranks around number 4 in Africa in terms of penetration.
Penetration of health insurance.
But it's a competition among dwarfs if we're talking about 30%.
Unfortunately.
Yeah. But we thank you very much for joining us today, McDonald. I think we need to continue having these conversations.
Absolutely.
It's important for us to open up our minds on what insurance is. And the importance of insurance. Yeah.
Thank you very much.
McDonald Kang'e is the General Manager for Medical at CIC Group. He's been here to talk about cost of healthcare and why comprehensive health insurance is important.
This is the Situation Room, the only way to start your day.